For those of you who started watching the channel in recent years for the FPV content, you may not be aware that I used to make a lot of videos on camera gimbals, specifically the DJI Ronin S, the SC, as well as the RS2. Now, in recent years, I haven't really concentrated on those products. However, I do still use camera gimbals regularly, and something that I have been lacking in my arsenal is a gimbal for my smartphone. Now, a few weeks ago, Hoam reached out and asked me if I'd be interested in taking a look at this, the iSteady M6. Now, this is a smartphone gimbal that allows you to stabilize the footage from your phone, but it also offers a lot of other additional features as well. And today, we're going to walk you through what they are, and then at the very end, I'm going to share with you my thoughts. Now, just to be crystal clear up front, Hoam did reach out to me and asked if I'd be interested in taking a look at this gimbal. I said yes. I have not been paid to make this video. They have not seen it before it's been published, and as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. And whilst I did receive this product for free and I believe I get to keep it, I don't actually know, I haven't checked, that will not influence my opinion at all. For those of you who are regulars of the channel, you know I will say exactly how it is, and I will be doing that today as well. Anyway, what we're going to do first of all is take a closer look at the product, walk you through its features and capabilities, and then I'm looking forward to getting it in action because it's been a while for me to try something like this. Okay, so the Hoam iSteady M6 Gimbal Kit is a smartphone gimbal. Now, you might be wondering, why do you need a gimbal for a smartphone? Because many of the cameras on smartphones already image stabilize as they come, and they offer good footage, and they absolutely do. However, having a gimbal gives you a lot more options. You have the ability to move it around a lot more. You can have it high up and low down and change your positioning, but it also gives you additional features and capabilities as well, which we'll take a look at as we move through the video. Now, the kit they've sent me here is the M6 kit. If we flip it over and take a look on the back, they show us here what's included. So we've got the gimbal, the fill light, the tripod, a storage bag, a USB-C charge cable, a Type-C to Type-C charge cable, and the user manual. It is designed for both Apple and Android, and there are apps available to download as well, which help you improve the overall usage. And then over here, we have some of the features laid out. So for instance, it will support a payload of up to 400 grams. That's a big phone. It has a DC output to charge your phone. It has their anti-shake system, 3-axis gimbal with 360-degree infinite rotation, which is good. It's got a multifunctional control wheel with an OLED display, and they also include this fill light with what they call a AI vision sensor. I'm always a bit dubious with any product when I see the words AI involved. However, we will take a look at that a little bit more later on. The real nice thing about this when I saw it was the fact that it does remind me a lot of the larger DJI gimbals like the RS2 and others that do have that little OLED display. It has info on there as well. And hopefully it's going to offer us a lot of nice features, and we'll take a look at them as we move through the review. Now, I'm going to do a very quick unboxing. We are on this journey together. I have not seen it inside myself at all either. So what I'm seeing here is for the first time as well. That is everything out of the box. So obviously that's our case. Very nice indeed. It's like one of those soft cases, which is nice. It's cloth bit at the bottom, and it's more rubberized at the top actually. And then we've got a carry handle there too. If we unzip, inside we will find the gimbal itself. Very nice. We've got, they say, the charging cables in those little boxes there. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. There's the gimbal. Lifts out. You can see the size and shape there. And again, we will take a closer look at this in a minute. Size-wise, just to give you an idea of how big that is, say, compared to my phone. That's an iPhone. That's a Max. I can't remember what model I've got now. I think it's a 13 Max, that one. So that gives you an idea of its actual size there. So it's not as big as a Ronin, but it's certainly bigger than some of the other smaller smartphone gimbals. We've then got all the adjustability options on this, and this is some of the things that I really liked. You can see you've got the balancing point down here like you have on the larger gimbals. You have the ability to move the parts to make sure it's balanced well. We can see that it's got that magnetic fill light there as well with the camera sensor on board. Interesting. We'll take a look at how that performs. We've got our camera grip, which goes really wide. And then we've got the other features there. What we got down here, under there is our, looks to be just a cover. Nothing there to come off. That's fine. And then we've got our ports on the side. But again, we'll take a look over this all a bit closer in a minute. But overall, though, I have to say, I like how that feels. Nice and solid. It is made of plastic, but it's like a rubber coating on that bit there. Trigger on the front. Got a lock there as well for the axis there. And is that another lock down here? Because there's a lock on that one. What's that say there? Oh, there we go. That one has locked now as well. So you can, if we go that way, you can lock the axes on this, which is really nice. Not all of them by the look of it, but you can lock some of them, which makes transportation a lot easier too. Going back in, we've got our tripod, plastic, with rubber grips on each corner, which is good, and our thread mount there. Yeah, feels nice and solid. Not going to break that too easily. Did used to see people break the tripods on the DJI ones. I'm really not sure how they did that, but they did. We have our cables. So what we've got is a USB-C to USB-C and a USB-C to USB-A. There's no Apple cables here, so again, we'll see what happens with that when we move through the video. I am an Apple user, but I also use Android as well. And then in the top of the case, under this sort of mesh area here, we've got the manual, and wow, that is a thick... It's in multiple languages, but that is still a thick manual. How big's the English section? So 24 pages. But it's nice to see a printed manual. You don't often see that with products these days, I'll be honest with you. So, overall looking good. Okay, so to walk you around the gimbal and some of the controls and features. Now, it's obviously a similar shape and design to the likes of the Ronin S, the SC. It's just smaller overall. Now, moving it around to this side here, what we've got is our little OLED display on the front. We've got our joystick, which moves the gimbal around. We've got a mode button. And then we've got our focus and record, and this works just like a DSLR camera. There's a soft press for the focus and a hard press for the record. And then around this, there's a zoom option. So if there's a zoom feature in your phone, it's going to allow you to control that there. On this side, on the left, we've got a focus wheel stroke multi-function wheel. Now, having looked at this quickly, it allows you to pull the focus on your camera, but you can also use this to adjust some settings on the gimbal, including controlling that little LED light, and we'll take a look at that a bit more in a minute. There is a dedicated A and B button, and this allows you to actually set up preset moves for doing time-lapse photography and things like this. So again, you can set position A, position B, and you can tell the gimbal to move between those positions. Then if we move around to the right-hand side, we've got USB-C power in to charge the built-in battery. We've got a power button. We've then got our tripod input option on the side there. There's another lock-in hole for that there as well from the look of it. And if we move around to the front, we've got our trigger, which allows you to do various functions. This works very similar to the DJI Ronin series with its functionality. And the trigger allows you to do stuff like the Ronin, like change the way the mode is or push it into sport mode. And then above that, we've got our lock for the axis there, which allows us to lock and unlock that. Then moving up, you can see we've got this gimbal arm that comes up. We've got an adjustable area here for the roll of the gimbal, so you can adjust the balance point of your camera on the gimbal as well. That is really good to see on a smartphone gimbal, because when you're going to use it with larger smartphones like I am, iPhone 13 Max, you're going to want to be able to balance it properly with that. Again, another screw mount on the end of that is really nice to see, so you can fit accessories. Then if we move up around this arm, we come up to here, we've got our DC out. That's going to allow you to charge your smartphone. You've then got your gimbal attachment for the smartphone, so the clamp. So you can see you've got the clamp there, you can move in and out. If we just take that off, you can see, and that is sprung loaded as well. This also rotates, so you can rotate that 90 degrees, so you can put your camera in the portrait or the landscape mode. You then just got like a rubber button up area here for your camera, and then on the top of this, if I rotate it, you can see that there's a magnetic input with pins, and this is where the AI module stroke light module goes, and this simply locks onto the top like that. But the nice feature is that it's reversible, so you can use it either pointing towards yourself or pointing away as well. Now, this module here, as I just mentioned, is an LED light and AI module, and the idea of this is it allows you to do the camera tracking without using their software in the gimbal. So like many of the other gimbals, it can actually track your face via their app, and we'll take a look at that. But if you don't want to use their app, this camera module, and there is a little switch on the side that allows you to turn that on and off, will allow it to track without using their app as well, which again is a really nice feature. And then we've got the LED, which is like a fill light, but it's a color changing fill light as well, and you can even set the color temperature and brightness on that as well. It's not just a dumb light, there's lots of control available on that too. On the bottom, we have our tripod input, and that's just a traditional screw, and then we just simply screw it in like that, and then that allows us to stand it up, making it nice and secure. Now, another nice feature about this gimbal is the fact that it does have built-in Bluetooth, and it's able to communicate with your smartphone via their Bluetooth app, and that then gives you all of the additional control and functionality. As I've said, we will look at that as we move through the video, but what it allows you to do is some of that stuff like the face tracking via the app, the control, the recording, and it has all of those options around here, like your focus control and everything. But as I did mention, if you didn't want to use them, you can use that AI module, and that still gives you features like the tracking. So what we're going to do is get our phone mounted. Now this process is fairly straightforward. You just pop it into the clamps like that and then push it up against that rubber bumper on this side here. Now, as I mentioned, there is some adjustments that you can make on this. This is fairly straightforward. You have got some height adjustment up and down on the phone with the clamp, and then you've got this adjustment here as well. And what you want to do is try to get it as neutral as possible. Now, what you're looking for in this is to try and get it as naturally balanced as it can. So rather than the motors on the gimbal be fighting against the weight of the phone, you get it balanced to the point where the motors don't actually have to do the work. You basically let gravity do it. Now, I'm going to be testing it with the AI module, so I'm going to place that on top first of all. And what we're going to do is first of all check this front axis, the up and down, or what we would officially call the pitch. Now, if you see it at the moment, it's wanting to drop each way. So if I leave go at that point, it will stay. If I tip it forward, it just keeps wanting to go down. So what I'm going to do is actually drop the phone down a little bit in the clamp. You have some vertical movement in it, and what happens is each part of the clamp goes up and down, and then you can start to try and see how the balance is. That's better than it was. It's staying there, and what you're looking for is the gimbal basically not having to fight it. That's pretty close. I'm happy with that. We're then going to check the roll axis. Now, the roll is this one here, and what we're looking for is it to pretty much naturally stay level. That's really quite close there. If I just show you what it would be like if it was off, if I just move it in, you can see now that it's really heavy and tipping over to this other side, and that isn't balanced. So what I'm going to do is just adjust the lever and arm, bring it out to the point where I start to think, yes, it's there. We're going to leave go. That's now pretty good. You can see it's actually falling level. Although the phone is tipping back still a little, it probably just wants to go down a touch more. That then is going to be, that then's close to perfect. And then it sits level. And that really is about as good as you're going to get it. It's never going to be perfect. But the idea of balancing is not to actually get it perfect. You just want to get it as close as possible. And that way it takes the weight off the motors. So to power the gimbal on, we're going to press and hold the power button for a couple of seconds. You can see it comes up with a name on the screen. It's then come up and told us the mode that it's currently in. You can see we've got our battery level, the Bluetooth icon showing. We've then got it saying focus, so that's telling us what this button is doing on the side. And then if we hit the mode button, You can see we can switch through the various different modes that are available. And now if I just move it down so you can see a little bit, if I start moving the trigger, you can see the gimbal starts to move as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this gimbal has many of the features you find on bigger ones from other manufacturers, including the likes of DJI, and actually its control setup is very similar to the Ronin S series. So for instance, on the front we've got the trigger. If I move the gimbal with the joystick and then double tap the trigger, it'll bring it straight forward. A triple tap spins it 180 degrees and puts it in selfie mode, and you've then got all of the same mode options on it as well. So we've got pan follow at the moment, so if I rotate the pan, you can see it's following, but if I tilt it forward, it keeps the camera or phone straight. We've then got pan and tilt follow, so you can see there now it's actually rotating it over, but stabilizing on the side. Oh, I went a bit too far that time. You do have limits, like on every gimbal. We've then got L mode, which is basically it doesn't follow. It will always keep the camera where you left it. So I can literally rotate the handle 360 degrees. I can move it down forward and it will try and keep the phone where it expects it to be. And then we've got POV mode, which is like FPV mode in our world, which now sort of stabilizes but follows the movements. And again, we'll take a look at these outside, but you can now see it moving there as well. And then if I go back, we then end up at PF mode, which again stabilizes the pan, but follows on the rest of it. You also have some other modes on it, like the sport mode as well, so you can get into that by pressing and holding the trigger, and it comes up with S, and then it just reacts much faster than it did before. So rather than it being slower moves like you're seeing there, if I press and hold the trigger to go to sport, it's much faster. So if you wanted to whip the camera around fast to get some footage on something, you can see it moves much faster. And if I turn that off, you can now see it's a much more slower, smoother recovery. And then sport mode, there like that. Okay, so I'm out and about with the gimbal. We're going to take it for a walk, and then I'm going to have a sit down and walk you through some of the features. Now, just to talk about a few things at this moment in time, let me just push it out a little bit. I'm obviously recording this on my iPhone, and what you're hearing is the audio through the mics. I'm not exactly sure what you're going to hear in this. However, we'll see how it comes out back at the studio. Now, I'm going for a walk down the woods, and at the moment I'm just holding the gimbal out. So if I just push it out there, you can see that gives you a bit more of a wider view, and obviously I won't pull it in closer, you don't need to see that. However, if I just flip around, you will then see that I can show you the areas around me, and we're in the standard stabilized mode. And obviously at this point, the gimbal is stabilizing for me. Now, what I'll do in a minute is swap the cameras to the front so you can see what I'm seeing as we're walking forwards here through the woods. So here I'm just walking with the gimbal looking forward, and you can see that it is stabilizing. I now just stop and do a bit of a pan. You can see that it's stabilizing the movement as I look around. If I then move it and look down with the gimbal, you can see that it's keeping it where I expect it to be. And if I continue to walk forward, and I'm just going to put it down into more of a shotgun position, you can see it stabilizing there as I'm walking forwards down the path. And again, we'll go up and have a look up there. We can then adjust the camera to show. And again, we're going to push it forward and down, and you can then see the path ahead of me. Another nice feature on this gimbal is the fact that the gimbal arm on the back doesn't get in the way of the front camera, which is the one you're looking at me on now. So for instance, if I just pick this up and tilt it up, the actual gimbal arm is right here. If I just move my finger, that's the edge of the camera there, and the gimbal arm is a bit further over, so there's a bit of separation in place between the gimbal arm and the camera, and that means that you can use it. I can tilt it up like that, so if I just do that, you can see that that's not getting in the way, which means you can use it for selfie, like filming like this, but you can also then swap the cameras and record the back cameras like you'd usually be able to on your phone. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is just walk you through the main app interface and show you some of its features. Now I'm not going to go over everything, but I am going to cover some of the most important ones. So starting on the left hand side, the icons you can see is the little round circle is the one that swaps between the front and the back cameras. We then got the recording modes, and then below that we've got the tracking options. This allows us to set the gimbal to actually track our face. We'll take a look at that a little bit more in a minute. Below this we then have our settings options. We've then got our adjustments at the top for our different profiles. There's then a beauty mode. We've then got the record and pause button, and then up the side here you can see we've got the recording or image capture types such as moment, video, stills, time-lapse, and again all of the usual features you come to find on a camera app on your smartphone. Now one of the interesting features on this gimbal is the face tracking. It is available in software on the app, but there's also the device which I showed you earlier, which is the built-in light and camera, and this has the AI tracking, and this will actually independently track compared to the software. Now the first thing we're going to do is try the software tracking. Now to do this we're just going to tap the button. I'm going to tap the face tracking, and you can now see that it's actually locked onto my face, and if I move around you'll see that it is actually following me. Now the nice thing about this is that it will try to keep me in frame at all times. So if I just move down here on the chair I'm sitting on, you can see that it's followed me, and again if I move further away you can see that the box tracks me and moves me back in. And what I'll do in a minute is actually a walking test with this so you can have an idea of how it actually performs. It's really actually quite good. It does a decent job of keeping you in frame, in focus, and it's nice that you can have that one-handed, one-person use but still have that look where someone is actually tracking, and whilst it is software it does a reasonable job overall. Now if we take a look at the AI tracking, you will see that this works a little bit differently. Instead of using the onboard software, it's now going to use that AI device itself. So what I'm going to do is turn it on. We'll wait for it to power up, and then what will happen is it'll flash the light at me twice to say it's ready, and when I'm ready I need to give it the OK symbol, which is that there, and what I'll see is the light on the gimbal change, and then you can see that it's framed me there. Now depending on where you are in the frame will depend on how it actually frames you up, and if you're finding it doesn't frame you correctly you can actually adjust this. What you need to do is that symbol there, the LED will then begin to flash. You can then adjust the camera position to where you want it to be. So for me, I'm just going to put it there. I'm going to do the same symbol again so it locks, and it's now keeping me in the center of the frame. Now just to give you an idea of how well this works, I'm just going to get up, I'm going to stand, and you can see that it's keeping me in frame there, and I'm just going to walk around the gimbal, and again we're using that AI tracking device to actually keep me in the frame of the camera. It's a little bit high for me at the moment, so if I wanted to adjust it, what I would do is just do that, and then going to come in, bring it down a bit, I think there, do the symbol again, it's locked back on, and it's kept me in the middle of the frame. And again it's just a nice feature to have that one person use but look like that there is a camera operator, and again it's just going to keep you in the center of the frame, so regardless as if you're coming in closer, so again I can just lean in and you can see it's keeping me in the frame there, but I can come out, move quite a distance away in fact, and again you're going to start losing my audio at this point, but again it's doing a decent job. And if I move down to here, I have to say overall I'm really impressed with just how well this actually works. Okay, now just to demo that AI tracking whilst I'm walking, what I'm doing is just going for a wander down here, and again we're using that AI tracking on the top with that camera, and you can just see it's keeping me in view nicely. I'm just going to wander down here across a little bridge. 2 seconds, just so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Let me bring the gimbal up. There you go. You can see that it's kept me in view. I can then rotate myself around, and it's keeping me in view up there, coming into the sun, and under here. And again, you've seen that the light levels have shifted, and it's, yeah, overall, I think it's doing okay. It's doing a decent job of keeping me in view. These things are never going to be perfect, but they certainly do better than what you would get without having it in place. And the gimbal, again, is doing the best it can to keep me in view and stabilised, even though the light levels are shifting around. And whether you're vlogging or blogging, or whether you're looking to just be able to put your phone down and have it stabilised, it's going to do a decent job overall. Now this time I'm using the app tracking rather than the AI camera. I've turned that off now, and again I'm just doing that pretty much same walk. Actually, we'll do exactly the same one just to see how it behaves compared to the other one. So again, walking down here towards the bridge. What we'll do is bring the camera up so you can see the river behind me. Yeah, it's keeping me in view. It's all good. And again, I'm just going to wander around, back up under this little hut with the light changes just to see how the tracking keeps locked onto my face. I think it's moving around a little bit more, and there are sensitivity adjustments for these things. Go down. So again, for that selfie recording or whatever else you're trying to do, I think it's going to do a decent job. Now, alongside all of the main controls, we've got some specific ones for the focus. So for instance, if your camera does allow manual focus on your phone, you can actually do things like pull focus with the control on the side. And then you've also got the digital zoom option via the tele and wide, which is around the record button, which allows you to zoom in and out. And depending again on what cameras and lenses your phone has, you can also switch between these in the app as well and choose which one you want and control the zoom on those too. You've also then got all of the other options like the recording modes for your phone specifically, and all of the settings for the gimbal available in the app too. Overall, there really is a lot to like on the iSteady M6, and if you're someone that is looking for a more professional gimbal for their phone, it carries over many of the features that we find on some of the larger gimbals, but it allows you to use them with your smartphone of choice, whether that be Android or iOS. It has that Bluetooth functionality, and if you're someone who is used to using the likes of the DJI Ronin series, you will feel very much at home with this gimbal, and it's nice to see those additional little features like that built-in fill light at the front, but also that AI tracking camera. And whilst the AI bit is something I'm always a bit dubious about, I can honestly say in my test so far, it does a good job of keeping you in frame. And if you're looking for a gimbal to be able to steady your footage on your smartphone while you're out and about, I see zero reason not to consider this one. Okay, now just before we talk about pricing, I just want to share some additional thoughts on this gimbal, having spent time with it. Now, again, just to be clear up front, I did receive this gimbal for free. However, I've not been paid to make this video, and as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. Now, I have to say, I have zero complaints with this product. There is nothing about it I can say doesn't seem to work as I've expected it to. The tracking is decent, the stabilization is good, and again, as I've already said several times, I've got no reason not to recommend you try this if you're looking for a larger style gimbal for your smartphone. About the only criticism I can give you on it is quite big compared to, say, some of the other smartphone gimbals, but that is a benefit if you're using a larger smartphone like I am. And about the only thing I would have personally liked is maybe a better way of interfacing audio on this. Maybe they could integrate some wireless mics on this product as well. That would be absolutely fantastic. But as a gimbal, to be able to stabilize your footage on your phone, it absolutely does exactly what I expect it to do. Now, price-wise, this kit that you've seen here is available for just over £200 in the UK, although you can get the gimbal itself a bit cheaper on its own. In the US, it is available for about $209 as well. And I have also seen it available on discount at times, and there will be a link to it in the description as well if you're interested in getting one. Now, again, I just want to say a massive thank you for sending this one over to me. It is going to help with me making content on this channel, but it's also been a really interesting product for me to take a look at as well. As I've said, if you're interested in getting one, there will be a link in the description. Furthermore, I just want to say, if you are interested in supporting the channel, please do consider checking out the links to my Patreon. It's only through the support of my patrons I'm able to keep making content on this channel, and if you're interested in supporting us in the future, there is a link there to Patreon as well as Buy Me a Coffee, and I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has supported us via those methods so far. Anyway, that's it from me on this one. Stay safe. I'll speak to you soon.